On February 28th, Sheriff Hanson testified as a neutral party regarding Nebraska LB684, introduced by State Senator Elliott Bostar, a bill to transfer juvenile probation functions to a new juvenile probation agency in the executive branch.
Madam Vice Chair and members of the committee, thank you very much. My name is Aaron Hanson. I'm the Sheriff of Douglas County, and although I'm the last speaker, I promise I'll be the first speaker to respect your red light. I'm here today to testify in a neutral capacity, and there's a very intentional reason why. I'm committed to staying at the table with the leadership of probation. It was about a year ago, as things were becoming very dire, that former probation administrator Deb Minardi approached me, and we started to have productive dialogue. Since that time, we've had a new Chief Justice appointed. We have a new probation administrator. The dialogue is continuing, and the dialogue is becoming more and more honest, because the honest answer is two things can be true at one time. Juvenile justice reform has been good for that 80% of kids that are low risk. It's true. It has been an ultimate disaster for high risk kids. Disastrous in so many ways. The duration that they can be supervised, the means that they can be supervised, the fact that we have no secure placement options, disastrous for high risk kids. And anyone in the industry, and you've heard a lot of truth, more truth than we've heard in a long time, will tell you that it is not working for high risk kids. How do I know? I was in the gang unit in 2015. That was my first assignment in the gang unit. We had a fantastic relationship with probation at that time. Hand in glove. Great outcomes. Taking high-risk kids off the street, keeping them off the street, trying to give them the services they need. Sometime around 2017, things changed radically. A lot of external forces, well-funded, came into play. Put a lot of pressure, both publicly and privately, on our partners. And the relationship turned toxic because it lacked trust, transparency, teamwork, and truth. And we're getting back to those things now. And why is truth so important? Because the judicial branch can only administer what the legislative branch tells them to administer. But if you don't know if it's not working, if they sit like the watcher and don't say anything, if they don't communicate it back, then you don't know how to fix it for the high-risk kids. That's why I'm committed to staying at the table with my partners in probation, regardless of which direction this goes, because we have to fix it. Because again, we've talked a lot about crime stats, juvenile crime stats. I'm on the crime commission. Trust me, I'm going to do the deep dive. I wouldn't be surprised if juvenile crime has declined, but I can tell you this. In 2017, we had 2 kids in Douglas County that committed 5 or more unique felony offenses. In 2023, it was 52. And that's only in Douglas County, and that doesn't count the kids that committed 4 and 3 and 2. I'll answer any questions that you might have, but I'm proud to partner with probation to fix this because we have to fix it for these high-risk kids.
Senator McCain.
Thank you. Thank you, Sheriff Hanson. What external forces messed up the system?
Well-funded nonprofit groups that were well-intended but naive that this was not going to be a one-size-fits-all approach to fixing juvenile justice. They were right when it came to low-risk kids and the need to not lock up low-risk kids, but they were completely off the mark when it came to the new Nebraska policy of catch and release and revolving door on high-risk kids, which sent them out to become more traumatized, traumatize more people, hurt innocent people, and engage in more serious crimes that in many cases cost them the rest of their adult lives in an adult prison, or maybe their life in terms of homicide.
Oh, thank you. Besides locking them up, what other interventions or services do you think the high-risk kids need?
We need a psychiatric residential treatment facility in Nebraska specifically for these system-involved teens, period. Boys Town has one, it's great. Emmanuel has one, it's great. But they're for kids with insurance or kids in their really low teens. And ask them and they'll tell you. We need infrastructure specifically for these traumatized system-involved youth that is secure, that will help give them the psychiatric and therapeutic needs that they need to start to even get close to being on the road to healthy and productive. And secondly, we do need secure placement options. We are so behind the ball in Nebraska. I just had a conference call with someone that operates on the national level in juvenile placement. We're not the only ones struggling with these high-risk kids, but we are very much behind the curve in that our state laws and our administrative rules do not allow for secure placement in Nebraska beyond detention and a PRTF. And that's wrong, and it's costing kids their future, innocent people their lives, and it is making our community less safe.
What is UNMC building? I saw they're building like a mental health facility for youth. What is that?
I believe that's children's,
Okay.
and that's great. And I hope, if my memory is correct, it's about an 85 bed capacity. But I'll tell you, Senator, as soon as that opens, it's going to be full to the brim. Because I'm assuming they're going to accommodate, I don't think a day goes by in my overnight briefings in my agency that I don't hear about a mental crisis occurring to an adult or a juvenile. And so as soon as that 85 bed facility opens up at Children's, I guarantee it's going to be full. And most of those kids are going to be kids with insurance. We specifically need a PRTF for system-involved teens. One of the mothers that testified here today, I know her story. The court ordered her daughter to a PRTF to Boys Town because she needed the psychiatric care. But because she had insurance, they charged her insurance and she walked away with a $300,000 bill for a 45-day stay.
Wow. I guess my last question, Douglas County did build a facility that's not being utilized. Has there been conversations about what to do with that?
The conundrum with the new Juvenile Justice Center goes back to the well-funded, well-intended, but naive external forces. The intent was to reduce juvenile detention by reducing juvenile detention capabilities. Mm-hmm. And so if we opened it without closing the existing DCYC, I believe the estimates would be anywhere from $5 to $7 million in additional a year in additional operating costs to run two facilities. But if we close DCYC and open up the new facility, we've had a average capacity in Douglas County Youth Center lately in the low to mid 90s. Day one, it would be too small. The constant theme I hear from judges, service providers, they don't know where to put these high-risk kids. They get grief for keeping them in detention, but they're terrified to put them out in the community because we don't have secure placement options where they can't just run and reoffend and hopefully get their head on straight so they can go to Radius and have a chance of actually straightening out and transitioning out into a regular life.
Thank you.
Senator DeBoer.
Thank you. I really only have one question for you. You said that the changes that we've made to juvenile justice have worked great for, I can't remember percentage.
Low-risk kids,
but
the majority.
Some big percentage of low-risk kids. But it's really bad for the high-risk kids, is I think what you said.
Catastrophic.
Okay. Couldn't remember the exact word.
Yeah.
How do we separate those two populations? Is there a mechanism to do that?
That will require, as I said earlier, we have to engage all the subject matter experts. One of the most important players are my teammates sitting behind me, my peers in the judicial branch. But they need to be empowered to speak on all of these issues. Policy issues, their experience. We need their input to solve this.
So let me ask you, I didn't hear what you said. You said who's sitting behind you?
The judicial branch, probation administration.
Okay.
We've heard a lot of uncomfortable truths today. There's a lot more to be told. The challenge is although it is small in numbers, it is huge in scope. Because I know we'd heard someone saying earlier, well, 95% of these kids are fine, it's the 5%. That 5% is terrifying. That 5% is killing our loved ones and killing themselves.
So you think that as the legislature, we're tasked with figuring out how to separate those two populations,
Correct.
or else we're going to have a one-size-fits-all kind of a situation.
Correct.
So I know that there's that instrument, the ray, that they use to figure out whether to detain people, and they assess them as high risk or low risk. Do you think that that is the same high risk, low risk that you're mapping, or is there a difference?
I don't trust, look, I think instruments are okay as a guide. Okay, but let me give you an example of how the instrument royally messed up here recently. We had a carjacking in unincorporated Douglas County. A group of juveniles carjacked an innocent woman. Omaha police found them, got in a short chase, arrested the occupants in the vehicle. But because we couldn't prove which one of the kids carjacked the lady, all we had was a felony theft by receiving charge. Theft by receiving. The instrument looked at it and said, property crime. An intake released them within hours. The instrument is fallible. The human element is what we need. We need everybody engaged and thinking clearly.
Wouldn't the instrument provide that information, but then that would be a pretty good example of when an override might come into play, because obviously there's extenuating circumstances to the classification of a property crime in that instance.
I would agree, and I would hope an override would happen in that case. In the example I gave, it did not. And so we need to bulletproof against those scenarios the best we can.
And so does that look like, it sounds like the instrument didn't fail because it should have been an override in that situation. So does that look like better training for those officers who are doing the evaluation of the instrument? Or was there not a place to send those kids? Let's say they had said, okay, we're going to override and we're going to keep the kids. Where do they send the kids? Is there a place that could receive them?
We had a place to receive them. DCYC has 134 capacity, 144 if you use additional bunk space and cell space that we have. We had more than enough capacity to keep them.
So that wasn't the
It
problem.
wasn't an issue of capacity in DCYC. In my opinion, it was a failure of the intake system.
So whoever was evaluating the results of the instrument should have overridden it in that case because of...
In my opinion, yes, but that goes back to what Mr. Steele talked about. Having that problem solving, that multiple eyes approach when it comes to these high-risk kids. I don't care about a kid that steals a Snickers from Target. I'm less concerned about a kid who commits a low-level crime.
So does that mean the multiple eyes, is that more probation officers? Is that more?
More collaboration, more communication, more trust. And I feel like we're trending back in that direction. 6 to 8 months ago, I'd have been here testifying as a proponent for this bill, probably first in line. Today, I'm testifying neutral because I want to give my peers a chance to continue to work through this process with me and others to adjust what they can control, number one, and number two, champion what they can't to you so that you can fix what you can control.
Well, and that's kind of what I'm trying to get at right now, is because obviously we can only, a legislative body can only put bills through at certain times of the year. We have to we have a lag effect.
Yep.
And I've heard a lot about this for a long time, so that's what I'm trying to get at. If what the issue is, it's not the 80% or whatever the kids that are low risk or even maybe medium risk, it's that remainder that is the high risk. And we don't seem to be sorting those well right now. Would you agree with that
The
statement?
system is designed for the low-risk kids right now.
And it doesn't seem to be sorting out or showing who is the high risk kids, or is that not true?
I think the system knows the high-risk kids, but we have no infrastructure, capability, or statutes to effectively manage, control, and rehabilitate the high-risk kids.
So it's not that we can't sort them out. We can identify who those kids are.
Yes.
It's that we don't have the statutes in place to allow probation to effectuate that sorting.
Or the infrastructure, or the administrative rules and state laws that allow for third parties to maintain infrastructure that is appropriate for high-risk kids if they're not going to be in detention, i.e. secure.
Okay.
There are still people that hear the word secure placement and immediately go into emotional mode and say, well, that means detention. No, it doesn't. And that is the progression around the country. If you don't want high-risk kids in detention, and if you know they're too unsafe to go home, you have to find that connector piece that is a secure therapeutic placement option until you can get them to a radius.
So when you're saying secure, because we've talked about this before as a committee, do you mean staff secure?
Nope.
You mean locked?
Locked. Correct.
Okay. I think I know your position now. Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.